Do you want me to do my clap thing?
Go.
We good?
This is the Luca Health Podcast, the show that goes beyond sport to understand the people behind the performances.
Welcome back to the Luca Podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome former England fly half, Premiership legend and points record holder Charlie Hodgson onto the pod today. Charlie burst onto the scene with Sale Sharks in 2000, winning the Premiership title in 2006 and lifting the European Challenge Cup in 2002 and 2005 before moving to Saracens, where he added back-to-back Premierships in 2015 and 2016 and a European Champions Cup that same year. He made the unforgettable England debut with a record haul, earned 38 caps and toured with the British and Irish Lions in 2005. These days, Charlie's channeling that game management brain into Rugby Buddy, his coaching and mentoring platform, helping players build confidence, handle pressure and perform when it matters. Super excited to dive into Charlie's career, decision-making under pressure and how he's translating lessons learned into Rugby Buddy. Charlie, welcome to the pod. Brilliant to have you with us. How are things?
Thank you very much for having me. All good. Early stages for Rugby Buddy at the moment, but it's growing. Of course, it's never as quick as you want it to be, but it's growing, and that's the main thing. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. I think that's like the first thing you learn when you're doing business. You fly, and everyone's gonna sort of jump onto it with as much enthusiasm that you have it.
Yeah.
Just everything just takes like 2-3 times as long, but exciting.
It's nice to be in control, though. That's the main thing.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I'm excited for this chat. Love watching you play throughout your career. Uber talented. Got some quick fire questions to ask you before we get into the meat of the chat, if you're happy with that. These can be one-word answers, or you can elaborate depending on
Okay.
the question. All right. Childhood hero.
This is supposed to be quick fire, isn't it? Childhood hero, Jason Robinson.
Best travel destination sport.
South Africa.
Can't beat Cape Town, can you? Funniest teammate.
It's been lots, actually. Chris Ashton does not fail to make me laugh.
I also played them for a little bit. Dream teammate.
Weirdly, Jason Robinson again. Like, he was a childhood hero watching him grow up, because I used to watch rugby league the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm from rugby league sort of country, and then weirdly being on the same team as him when I went professional was bizarre.
Yeah.
But like, what an incredible player he was. Amazing. Don't know how old Robbo looks about 28 the whole time, so I'm not sure. Probably lies about his age as well. What's the age gap? It's probably only like 8 years or something, not a lot.
God, watching him play for Sale, like when he came over, it was
exciting. Yeah.
Somebody like that much juice in their legs. Most memorable moment from your career?
I was fortunate to have lots. I think the most memorable actually was probably my last 2 weeks of my career, actually, which ended with a European Cup win. 2 weeks later, Premiership final win. I was on the bench for both games, but I don't care about that. It was the fact that it just finished the way it did. It was one of those moments where I could just I knew I was finishing, and I was able just to sit back and enjoy the whole experience, and not. Sometimes when you win, you get so kind of caught up in the whole emotion, and before you know it, it's gone. And I think for me, I was really able to cherish those moments and just say, this is it, and I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. So it's good.
Incredible. Okay, and then you said you're not much of a golfer, but today is Friday the 26th of September, and first tee shots are being struck in about 4 hours, I think. So Europe or the US to do it this weekend?
Well, given my golf knowledge is pretty bad, I can't. I'm certainly not going to start talking about who's got form, but I have to go with Europe. I have to go with them.
Yeah, fair enough. I can't wait to watch this. We'll do it later. Amazing, Charlie. I want to get into your career a bit because it truly was phenomenal. 16 years in the Premiership, points record holder, like 38 caps, I feel like you should have, well, you definitely deserved a lot more than that. So, a British and Irish Lion as well. How, with the passing of 9 years since you last played a professional game, like, how do you sort of reflect on that journey now? I know that it wasn't necessarily always on the cards. You went to the GS in Bradford, like very strong rugby playing tradition there, and I know that the years above you were very, very strong, and probably that inspired you, but you went off to university before you signed a professional contract with Sales. So
yeah,
I guess talk us through sort of that journey from being inspired as a schoolboy to ultimately finding yourself playing for England at 21.
Yeah,
like a roller coaster.
It was quick. Yeah. It was very quick. I went through all the trial systems, sort of different to what it's like now in terms of the academies, but so it was like playing for Yorkshire schools, north of England, and then into England schoolboys. And even though I was part of the England under-18 squad, there was no contract offer from anybody. There was some conversations I had with Leeds Tykes at that moment, the Yorkshire, who they are now, but it just didn't feel right. I wasn't sure, and so I just chose to go off to university. I went to Durham University and just thought I'd just keep pursuing it there, not really thinking that rugby would take me anywhere. And also bear in mind the game as a professional game, it had only been 5 years, I think, so relatively new. And as I said before, a lot of my upbringing was around watching rugby league, so I didn't really know the union game at all. I didn't really know Sale before I joined. So yeah, I went to Durham and I had a great year there, but it was during that year that I was playing for Yorkshire under-20s. I happened to be in the right place at the right time. Actually, the academy manager at Sale Sharks was there to watch the scrum half that I was playing with. Didn't know anything about me. I had a good game. Off the back of it, I was invited to do pre-season training with them, and I was like, yeah, why not? I'll go and do pre-season and then go back to Durham for my second year. And then they asked me to sign a contract at the end of summer. What I didn't realise at the time was basically me and another guy who were fighting out for this contract. They brought us both in to be the understudy to Nicky Little, who was the Fijian fly-half at that stage. Fortunately, that went well. That pre-season, I was asked to sign a contract in the August. But then by the November, I managed to knock Nicky out of the team, and I was playing first team for Sale. So it was I was turning 20, really, just about to turn 20. And then fast forward 12 months, I was getting capped for England at Twickenham, the week of my 21st birthday. So it was all a bit mad. Now I look at it and reflect on it, I was like, mentally, was I prepared? No. I just, certainly for the first 6 months of my professional career, I was still a student. I was still acting like a student. I ate like a student and drank like a student. But yeah, I was playing professional games on a Saturday. It was just a bit bit crazy. But then you eventually have that light bulb moment where you're like, something needs to change here.
Yeah. But equally, maybe there's something to be said for that, because you weren't indoctrinated into the academy from a very early age and started taking life far too seriously as a teenager, and maybe let it happen. But then obviously, yeah, you probably got to start being a bit more professional if you're turning out for England. And so you, I'll always remember your test debut. Well, no, not your debut. No, what's your debut? It's Romania.
Yeah, Romania. Yeah, it was sandwiched between Australia and South Africa. So I sat on the bench for those 2 games whilst Johnny started the games. Okay. Not really thinking I was going to get on. Anyway, Johnny got injured against South Africa. Properly hurt. He was screaming on the physio bed at half time, and I was like, I almost felt like a competition winner. I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Like, Johnny's getting beaten up. Like, I don't deserve to be here right now. Anyway, he was unbelievable. He carried on and played the full 80. And then, like, the week came around against Romania, and I had, like, this nice, easy run into international rugby where we won, like, 134-0.
Staggering. Yeah, I heard you talk about that on the Next Gen pod. Johnny getting injured at half time and writhing around in pain on the physio bed, and you desperately not wanting to go on. Is that a natural feeling? Is that just a rite of passage that every youngster has when, the professional rugby is what you know? I remember having that feeling, sat on the bench for the first team at the Saints as a kid, thinking, I really don't want to go on here. I'm really scared about missing a tackle or doing something stupid. Like, how quickly did you get over that? Was it the moment you then actually made your debut and you realised that you belonged, albeit against Romania?
Yeah, I think once you have that opportunity and you've been on and you've kind of experienced it a little bit, I appreciate that they weren't the strongest of competition, so that it was never going to be like that the whole time. But just having that taste, it gives you a little bit of something. But I mean, like even through that period of time, I was like them rubbing shoulders with the guys who eventually went on to win the World Cup, like Jason Leonard and Lawrence Tadalio and Richard Hill and Johnny Wilkinson and Will Greenwood, and like you can reel off all these names that household names that went on to win, and I'm like, God, I feel so out of place right now, and that was the hardest thing. That it was, you had to earn your respect from those guys. It wasn't given to you. It's very different. I think the squads now are very welcoming to the younger generation coming through, and I think certainly when I joined, it was a bit like you're almost waiting to be spoken to.
Right. That sort of old school, hierarchy type thing.
A little bit.
For those guys with like bridged amateurism.
Completely, yeah. Some of them had jobs, and then they went pro, and they caught the back end of it as well.
Interesting. And was rugby league ever on the cards for you then? You said you grew up.
Yeah, no, it wasn't as a player. No, I just spent we spent weekends watching Halifax play and travelling across the north watching them. But because I played union at a union playing school, it was just a natural progression for me to carry on doing that. To be fair, I did have conversations with St Helens probably 3 or 4 years into my professional career. But at that stage, this was probably at the time when I'd played most games for England, and I was just like, it's not the right time. And then after that, I didn't look back. It was just one of those like, well, if I'd done it then, fine. But I think once I'd made that decision that I was going to stick around, I wasn't going to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from a club standpoint, 11 years at Sale in that super successful team like 2006. Chabal, Jason Robinson, Jason White, Mark Cueto, you guys were stacked, Brian Redpath. What was the evolution of that sort of journey? Like, you obviously spent the majority of your career there, and then sort of the final third was with Saracens and the building of that project. Reflect on some of the differences. Well, the evolution of Sale, I guess, and then moving on to pastures new to down.
I think I put my club career into sort of thirds, really.
Yeah.
That period up to 2006, obviously when we won the Premiership. That was building from when we started right at the very beginning under Jim Malander and Steve Diamond. We had a really strong core group of academy players. Myself and Quates and Dean Schofield and Chris Jones and Magnus Lund and Richard Wheelsworth. Like, we all kind of came through at the same time, well, different years, but around that same time. And the coaches were really willing to give us an opportunity. But then they blended in this mixture of experience and internationals. And then when Philippe Saint-Andre came in and brought this French contingent with him, with Chabal and Bruno, Léonard Faure, it was just a really nice combination. And so we just kept building each year. And I don't think really people expected us to win the Premiership in 2006, but we finished top of the table. We had like this unbelievable like never say die attitude. We came back from games in the last we won games that we should never have won in the last 5 minutes, but we ended up scoring 3 tries and stuff to win games.
Wow.
So we just and then off the back of that, things started to change. The success, of course, clubs are attracted to players, and then they start to leave and disappear, and Philippe took the French guys back to France, and there was a lot of change between probably like 2008 up to 2011. That was some really difficult years with Sale because the coaching setup changed, the players changed, and there was no continuity again. It was like what was so strong from the beginning of this sort of academy group coming through. It just felt like there weren't the same opportunities for them really getting this. Maybe that's because of the success that we had. Like, we had a strong team, so breaking into that team from a young age was difficult. So therefore, the opportunity that they had was a lot less.
Hard to keep that together, isn't it? There's always almost like life cycles of teams that can last half a decade, as much as sort of almost a decade. I think you've seen that. Obviously, you saw that with Sale. Then we've seen that Sarries. You then went and joined a group as an older player, but obviously, sort of the foundation was the guys that come through the academy, like
exactly the same.
There's the Vunipolas, who am I missing here? Like
Will Fraser,
It was just completely stacked, wasn't it? Like, a group. I think they had like 6 internationals come through. And then I think we've seen that at Exeter a little bit, haven't we? Like, they've almost been victims of their own success from the academy standpoint. Aircraft, and they went on what Premiership, European Cup, COVID, and obviously. It
kind of shows that it works. Like, it's a proven system. It works. You just as long as the coaches have time, as long as the owners are giving the coaches time and the players time to embed themselves, they've clearly got the talent, otherwise they wouldn't be there in the first place. It's just making sure they have opportunity to do it, but also to learn and to grow, and not be just cast off if they make a mistake or two. So and then the stuff at Sarries was just two completely different cultures.
Yeah.
Two different ways of looking at it. I'm kind of made that decision to leave because I needed to try something different. They were at the start of this new journey, and it was great to be part of that. It was kind of sold to me that it was a new journey. It was an opportunity to work with Owen, with him coming through as a 19-year-old, and he was already ahead of his time at 19 years old anyway. So it wasn't like I needed to do a huge amount, but it was good.
They must have been two very different environments. So I remember, like, when did you join Saracens? 2011, something like that? Yeah. So they'd probably been like going for a couple of years in terms of, I know there's new philosophy.
Yeah, they're about 18 months into it.
18 months into it, and it was almost like the old school sort of, old school of hard knocks, whatever you want to call it, like almost like amateur days led into professional in some clubs, quite a hierarchy, kind of top down.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, salaries almost seemingly from the outside, they turned that on its head and was like, well, actually, who are the assets at the club? It's the Rugby players.
Yeah.
We treat these guys as humans first, players second, and if we look after them and make them feel good and make sure that everything's taken care of off the pitch, then they're gonna logically probably perform slightly better on it. And it seemed revolutionary at the time. You look back now and it's like, well, that just made a lot of common sense.
Completely, yeah. I mean, I think certainly there were times at Sale where it's like the old hairdryer treatment. If you lose a match and then you kind of were expecting on a Monday, like, well, what we're going to get in this meeting on a Monday. But the biggest psychological sort of change for me was when I joined Sarries, and we didn't lose that often, certainly in the first few years, but when we did, the messages in the meeting on the Monday were always really positive. I was like sitting there going, this is weird. And then everybody go out and like the vibe and the energy be really, really strong the whole time. It was almost like, have we just lost again? We won that game, because it felt like we just won. It was bizarre, and I think we often had visitors there on a Monday for those meetings. Well, just watching training, but they'd sit in the meetings, and I think if they didn't know the result of the game on the Saturday, they probably wouldn't have known if we'd won or lost. They probably expected us to have won, even if we had lost. Like, it was just the way that they conducted the meetings and the coaches, and it was so well thought out. With the likes of Brendan and then Mark McCall and Alex Sanderson's obviously now at Sale, Paul Gustard in France. Like, just really different way of looking at it, and how you manage those players and how you fill the tyres, because that's all you need. Like, to put it bluntly and simply, like, we're all doing the same thing. We're all pretty much going to play the same way, but it's just like, who does it better? And I think a lot of that comes from what goes on in the mind, not necessarily what your preparation looks like. Well, your preparation is important, but what you're actually doing physically.
Very interesting that, because for those that haven't been in that sort of professional environment and been in a Monday morning review meeting, but they're not all like that, right? Like, as you said, like that was very different necessarily happening at other clubs at the time, and those meetings can be like quite negative.
Hugely, yeah.
All right, we lost by 15 points the weekend, we should have won. I'm about to show 5 clips of people making mistakes in front of their whole peer group. That doesn't do a lot for like morale and energy.
No.
And it's like, right, the energy is completely taken out of the room. People feel angry, others feel embarrassed. But we're going to go and train now, so let's be up for it.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's interesting.
The one thing that they did do which very well, which is they always came back to kind of the values that we spoke about and what we agreed as a group. And a lot of it was based around effort. And when we reviewed matches, and particularly losses, it was always reviewing what our effort was like. And of course you can back that up with GPS. We're all wearing GPS vests, so they kind of look at that and look at those scores and go, well, actually the reason why we haven't won is because we're getting beaten to the ball, and we're not worked hard enough, and our speed and distances are down. Like, so, and then from our perspective, they're sort of saying, look, that's a you thing that you can control, right? You can't control whether you make mistakes, but you can control how hard you work, right? And so we're bothered about that. We'll be really bothered about that. But in terms of the skill development, they almost took it off us and said, right, we'll make you better at that, so don't worry about it. We'll go out in the field and we'll work on it, and we'll improve you, and we'll do what we need to do. but actually all we expect of you is just to give it everything you've got at the weekend. And if you don't, well, that's where we can come down the line.
It's incredibly empowering, that, isn't it? Because like, you're always going to make mistakes, or you're always going to do like brilliant things, but you're not necessarily in control of that, and you're never wanting to make a mistake.
Nobody does want to make a mistake, do they? Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's really clever. You know, they basically got all of you in a room. Like, what do we stand for? Like, it wasn't like top-down messaging. It came from the group. As a result, it's going to be buy-in. You know, you look at like the business world, but people don't want to be told what to do. Right?
Yeah.
They feel like they have some autonomy in terms of what they're doing, and so like they feel like they're part of the decision-making process, and it's obviously going to be more buy-in. So I think that's interesting. I've heard from people previously that who've gone into the Saracens environment. I don't know whether this was your experience as well, but get absolutely beasted from a fitness standpoint. Like, fitness levels are through the roof. And pre-season is pretty ugly in terms of some of the fitness games they play. But I guess if everything's based off effort and GPS and sort of like collective input rather than like singling out people's individual mistakes, I don't know. Is that something that you experienced there? Different from what you were doing at the Sale?
It was different because I'd gone from doing like just running, like you're just gonna do like anaerobic fitness, or like to then actually playing games with fitness, which were really, really difficult. Don't get me wrong, but I enjoyed pre-season. Like, it was a part of the year that I really enjoyed. partly because you didn't have the pressure of actually winning and losing games, but it's a good opportunity to get fit and feel strong, and I just enjoyed those moments of. Of the game-based fitness, because that was everything. That was what made me tick.
A bit more enjoyable just from yourself.
Yeah, completely.
Nick Johnson, did you have him pre-season at the Sale?
Yeah, Nick was one of the ones that made us run. Yeah, like we do.
Some of his pre-season was interesting.
Oh, I mean, we're running around a golf course first thing in the morning, hitting a ball and running after it. And then we'd be in the gym for about 3 hours, and then we'd do some anaerobic fitness in the afternoon. I'm like, what is this? I appreciate we're professionals and we need to work hard, but this is Nick, you've gone too far. Anyway, do you know what? Actually, Nick was he worked us incredibly hard, but we were also really fit. Like, that was also at the time when we ended up winning the Premiership and stuff. So like, he knew what he was doing. We were in good shape. But there's just different. Let's be honest. There's different ways of doing it. Like, you could run people to the cows come home. You could do fitness games. Like, there's different ways of doing it, aren't there? But it's just how do you make it enjoyable for people?
Yeah, totally. Very interesting. And so the first third was sort of the Sale, that evolution, and then like that dismantling of Sale, and then the time at Saracens where you were.
Yeah, I mean, I'd signed a contract at Sale. 4-year contract just around the time we won the Premiership, because I thought, this is it, we're motoring now, and then poof, everything just crashed. Yeah, and so certainly for 2 years the last 2 years of that contract, I was like, I need to get out, I need to go.
Fine. And then you rounded out last game 2016, ended as the record point scorer in the Premiership by some margin. Do you know these stats? You ended up on 2,626 points, 400 more than the man in second place, who is Goody. What surprised me, I mean, you are miles ahead of everyone. Like, this isn't disrespectful, by the way. I didn't realise that you played in like 2001, or like was in contention for the 2003 World Cup. I just assumed you were younger, or like maybe because.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Career, right? I'm not trying to give you a compliment, but what stood out from those stats? Yeah, you're 400 points ahead, which is obviously at least a couple of seasons. Johnny. Not even in the top 10.
Is he not?
No.
Not in the top 10? Well, he did go to France and he was injured a lot though, wasn't he?
So he is 11 on just under 1,500 points, but I guess it's the injuries, right?
Yeah.
But there we go. Thought it was interesting. Now I want to get into England. 38 caps, 2001 to 2012, spun a long time, the majority of your career. I didn't know this until I was doing some research for this conversation. You were very unlucky with injury. Your ACL in 2003.
Yeah, Six Nations of 2003, yeah.
So you missed the World Cup. And then you made 18 starts consecutively when you came back from the ACL between 2004 to 2006. And then in that same year, 2006, did your other knee.
Yeah.
You missed the 07 World Cup in France.
Yeah, I mean, I was fit, but I wasn't selected.
Talk us through your England experience a little bit. Clearly, injury didn't make things easy in that respect. You obviously had Johnny Wilkinson that was sort of cemented and treasured in like that position as you were coming through. Yeah,
I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with my international career. Actually, I think some people take to it like a duck to water, right? They just step into international rugby and everything just seems to go and float for them. Right? It seems that way anyway. My England career never really felt like that. I always felt on edge. I always felt like I was just keeping the shirt warm for somebody else. And then of course then you pick up your injuries and stuff, and then there's just this heightened pressure all the whole time of doing it. So some of it was, I kind of, and the reason why I kind of say it's a love-hate relationship, I think some of it was a me thing. Some of it was definitely me not being able to handle it at times, and the difficulty that came with international sport. And then some of it was an actual environment thing.
Yeah.
And so, like the number of games that I would have played with a different scrum half or a different centre pairing is too much, right? And when you're only coming together for a very short space of time, you've basically got 2 weeks leading up to your first match, whether it's the Six Nations or the Autumn Internationals. It's not a lot of time really to really gel when you're coming from, as it was then, 12 different clubs. You've all got different ways of working. So in the height of pressure, when the moments are really, really important and you don't recognise somebody's voice or what's being said around you because it's loud, and like there's lots of things that are going on if you don't have that really. So when you get used to playing with somebody, you've got this telepathy that you just understand, don't you? And there were times when you just feel a little bit alone, and you're trying to solve problems. You're like, well, we're all in the same boat here. We're all trying to solve problems, but we're all trying to solve them individually as opposed to collectively knowing exactly how it's all going to work. So for me, I found those moments really difficult, and that's not to say I didn't have some good international matches as well. And that's what I mean. It's like sometimes it went well, really enjoyed it. Sometimes it was bad, and then obviously I had these injuries. So, if I had my time again, I would. I don't know how I would change it, other than working on me personally. I think psychologically would have been something that I would have really focused on.
Interesting. Was it a confidence thing? I mean, I understand the challenges. I mean, I've never done it, but like I can understand logically, coming together a short period of time. You know, guys inside you, outside of you, etc., etc. Like you were a very core component of that sales side, that Sarri side. Obviously, the England days were done when you moved to Sarri's largely. You must have felt like very secure, very confident, very sort of like at ease in that player group.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons. That's part of it, isn't it? It's feeling like you are safe and secure, and you know that the coach has got your back. I won't bore with stories, but there were times when trust was completely destroyed between me and coaches, and so then you learn to kind of you go into the self-protection mode, and the times when you realistically should be sharing. Sometimes there's a conflict of interest of who you want to share that with,
because you don't trust it's going to be kept confidential.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's I'm not. I don't want to go over it too much, but it's we'll probably come to this, but it's kind of the reason why I'm where I am now with Rugby Buddy, and part of those reasons and the psychological sort of stuff that I actually had to work out myself over a period of time. To actually go, right, this is how you're going to manage it. This is what you need to do to move forward in the right way.
And help us understand, like, what's the step up from you playing a big Heineken Cup match for Sale, or you're playing a Prem final for Sale, for Saracens or whoever, with that step up in scrutiny, in pressure, whatever you want to call it, from like high stakes Prem game to playing for your country. Help us understand that a little bit, because not many of us have done that. Or is it intangible?
It's perceived, isn't it? It's perceived stress, what you place on it yourself. It's this natural thing where you go up a level and you're like, and everybody goes, oh well, it must be more stressful. There must be more pressure. So there's an element of that where you start to believe it yourself. You believe that hype. But the game is quicker. The game is more physical.
Yeah.
You make a mistake in the Premiership, you might be able to fix it.
Yeah.
You make a mistake at international, you don't fix it. Somebody scores. It's much more ruthless. And so there were times like if I say, for example, missed a tackle for England, that's heightened because somebody goes off and scores a try, right? And then everybody's like, you're shit. Whereas in the club game, if you miss a tackle, it's like, well, somebody manages to fix it, or the opposition might make a mistake, so they don't score. So there's things like that can happen. So yeah, it's just the game's just players are better. Yeah. Like it's just that's kind of it, isn't it?
The better in the game.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did you read Ben Youngs' article, or the article written about Ben Youngs in The Guardian yesterday?
No.
Very interesting reading. I'd recommend you check that out. So the first time I really heard him like sort of air his opinions from his playing days, and is like pretty candid around coaches. And I'm not saying this because I want you to open up and like slag off any coaches.
Was he talking about anyone in particular?
He basically had a pop at every coach that he worked with, but then also said some nice things. I think he just released a book. So
okay. There's a reason why.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's a reason why he spoke to The Guardian. But it's an interesting article just around. He sung Eddie Jones' praises quite a lot, actually, as a man manager, which goes against what quite a lot of people have said. I think
that's individual, though, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
Really, he sort of said that it was very clear that he was riding his staff way too hard and that there was no longevity in that. It was very praising of Borthwick as a coach, being data driven and being effective, but perhaps less as a man manager and as people person. I knew about Tom's brother's wife and her cancer. I wasn't also aware that his sister really sad and she lost her husband to MND, and Ben was just like dealing with all of this, picking up caps and trophies and justified to himself.
Yeah.
When he thought he was being selfish, and he was going off and became the record cap holder for England, and just felt nothing but guilt as a result of that. And I think just didn't necessarily get the support from some coaches, basically. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I thought it was a really interesting article. I'm definitely going to read the book. What level of support was there for you, like as you were breaking into the team as a 21-year-old? I guess from a psychological standpoint, it would have been pretty early days in terms of that mental stuff.
Well, if you picture the only person that was running the psychological support was a coach, was also the kicking coach.
Reddit?
No, Dave Allred.
Dave Allred, sorry.
Yeah, so Dave was the kicking coach, was obviously one of the main coaches, one of the main selectors. Part of my issues that I had internationally at times was through goal kicking at a couple of moments when I really needed support.
Yeah.
But there's a conflict of interest there. It's like, I need to speak to somebody about this. Without going into too much detail, there were some things that were changed the week of an international.
Okay.
Which should never have happened. I should never have even allowed it to happen, but some technical changes were made, or encouraged to be made, the week of an international.
Which game centre, or?
No, I mean goal kicking changes. I mean technical changes. Yeah. So as I'm into the game and I missed the first kick because things have changed, I'm like, shit, how do I fix this? So then the posts suddenly start to shrink, and you're going, this is tough. But then there's a conflict of interest because you've got the kicking coach who's encouraged you to make the changes, but also he's a psychologist, and I'm going, I don't want to speak to you about this. So I'm really struggling. I've had a bit of an avoidant style as well. I think I'm not a good one for conflict. So actually, I just go, I'll bury that down. I won't deal with it. There's no.
You have to deal with it.
So you have to deal with it. Yeah, and eventually, I did deal with it. Probably 2005 pre-Lions tour. But yeah, that was some moments like that which you find out that you need to take a lot of responsibility, I think, and a lot of ownership in how you manage it. You can't just rely on other people to help you out. I think that's what I felt.
Okay, interesting. And I guess that's a nice segue into what you're doing with Rugby Buddy, right? Is that you're trying to equip youngsters. I shouldn't speak what you're doing. You should explain this, but my understanding is that, at a high level, trying to equip youngsters with the mental skills to actually not just cope but also thrive in some of those high pressurized environments. Even in the school game, obviously the school game is massively professionalized since you were playing rugby at
completely.
Go down to Roslyn Park now and it's like Rugby's version of Glastonbury, and all these games are getting filmed and streamed on Next Gen, on YouTube, and there's Instagram accounts everywhere, and there's always been sort of scouts on the sidelines, but it just seems like a pressure cooker. And I think it sounds like you learned how to handle those tough environments, and in your brain, you had to learn that almost by yourself throughout your career, maybe to the detriment sometimes of your own health, mental health, whatever you want to call it. Whereas you're trying to equip the next generation with those skills from an earlier age, so that they can enjoy it a bit more.
Pretty much, yeah.
Also, not have to figure it out just by themselves. Is that right?
Completely, yeah. I mean, you've nailed it there. I think that the pull of professional academies, whilst they've changed the age bracket now it's gone from starting under 14, kind of the trial system, to under 15. So they've put it back a year. But the preparation that the kids go through, and the parents are starting to think about, they're coming up now. So it's on the horizon, even though they're 12 months out, 18 months out from it, and they're starting to think about it. Like you said, there's the Roslyn Park Sevens, St Joseph's Ipswich tournament, which is a flagship tournament. Even I played at, but it's huge now. And obviously all the best schools go and play in it. I was speaking to the director of rugby, the director of sport even there only recently, and he's saying these kids go from playing in front of one man and his dog at most weeks to then suddenly having this flagship tournament at their school, and they're like, what, how do I manage this? And then you've got, once they're in the system, it's like, well, then some of the perceived best ones then get discarded, and they're like, well, what's happened there? Where have they gone? And so some of that has come from I suppose my own journey as a teenager. I went through all the trial system. I was always told I was too small. I got lots of injuries, to then now seeing my son go through the pathway himself with Saracens, watching his journey and the resilience that he's had to sort of forge himself from the knockbacks, and not feeling like he's going to be part of it, and then suddenly he is part of it, and then he's not, and then seeing other kids get discarded, and some kids getting injured and missing out on opportunities, and so all of these things are kind of merged into this. And then from my own experience as a player, going, there must be something to support this younger generation. It can't just be that we just let them be and let them work it out, because the dropout rate's huge from 18 when they leave school. Like, some will work up, and if they don't turn professional, they go, oh, that's it, game over. And actually, rugby should be more. There's more about rugby than that, isn't there? And there's so much around the community and the social value that you get from it. And I just would hate kids just to get put off by rugby because they didn't quite make it. Or I appreciate that every kid that I speak to, that they have aspirations to go on and become professionals. The majority of them do, but not everybody's going to become professional. So there's an element of education, of protection, of empowerment, and also to think about, well, if your plan A is to become a professional rugby player, what's your other plan A? Like, not just what's your plan B, like what's your other plan A? Because this might not even happen. So
has to be plan B, as you say, because then that looks like a failure. And
completely, yeah. I want you to go after two things, but then let's learn how to balance those things. Let's learn how to deal with distractions so you can focus purely on that at the right time, and focus purely on that at the right time. So there's an element of, certainly with what I do, there's an element of kind of managing stresses and learning how to deal with things in the moment, and sort of regrounding techniques in match. But there's also an element of just managing your time correctly. And how do you prioritise your schoolwork to your training schedule to your just got social life and your family life. Like, they're kids and they need help.
I think it's massively important, because it can be a pretty lonely place, can't it, when you go into those trials and stuff. And I hope that they're slightly softer environments now, but you know what it's like. You turn up, you wouldn't know anybody, everyone's scared.
It's all peacocking, isn't it?
Everyone is just showing off and the most scared of being the loudest, all that kind of stuff. And then you get selected scared to play, or you don't get selected, and you go back to school and you feel a bit embarrassed because you put a pedestal at school and you get injured and you have to deal with all those anxieties.
Oh, you're watching your mate succeed and you're not, and all these things that are going through your head.
Yeah, super hard. And I think from we deal with schools with Luca, and it seems that kids, regardless of those that want to go and play pro rugby, are feeling pretty stressed at school these days. It feels like there's a huge amount of pressure on them, regardless of that extra pressure they're putting on themselves in terms of academic results, but also I think just societal pressures.
Yeah,
this whole social media sort of world landscape that everyone lives in.
Comparison is a thief of joy, isn't it? Yeah. That's also one of the major issues, isn't it, as well? It's like you see somebody with 20,000 followers as an 18-year-old, and you're like, how's he got that many? Yeah.
I think that's earlier. I was like, we obviously came through in a pre-social media world, particularly when we were at school. And it's almost like you're a relatively big fish in a small pond there. And I was thinking, is it worse now, or is it better now? Because maybe now you put on less of a pedestal because people know that you might be the best at your school, but actually you're not that good because everyone knows how good everyone is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
I don't know what's worse, but it's kind of interesting. But I'm really scared of these kids. I mean, it's great that Next Gen and people like that exist and as a platform, because the way Angus, I actually went to school with Angus, he was a couple of years above me in a boarding house, he sort of explained that the vast majority of people playing this Joe's Festival or playing any school game up and down the country are not going to make it professionally. So actually it's quite nice if they can be made.
This is their moment.
This is their World Cup final when they're playing at Bosley or St Joe's. And in that respect, I'm like, oh, that's really good. But I can see how it has the potential to do some damage as well, as you say, to those that are going to be the next big thing, and all of a sudden 6 months later.
But I think at the end of the day as well, though, it's very much around life skill, not necessarily what you do on the rugby field. So it's like you're going to come across situations where you don't get the job that you want to go for, or you're asked to make a speech in front of 200 people as a manager, first-time manager, or something like that, where it's the exact same stresses that you'll experience on the rugby field, just in a different environment. So I think it's just like, well, let's educate around it as best as possible.
Are these skills being taught in schools widely? I presume not, which is why you're sort of doing this. I just think that we were talking about this off air before we jumped on, that I feel like you can be kind of spoon-fed, or at least you're on a bit of a conveyor belt at school. You don't go through the motions, but you progress each year. You just these ASs, A levels, you go off to university. But it's only then when you get into that big bad world, you have to start making decisions by yourself, and you have more setbacks, and not everybody's necessarily got your best interests at heart. I think that's my experience of the corporate world. I think that's probably your experience of some professional rugby environments that you've been in.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so bullish on giving people a toolkit that they can deploy in any number of scenarios on the rugby pitch, doing their A-levels, in their first job, in an interview, whatever it might be. And I think some of these, being reflective and understanding sort of how your mind works, and taking a step back and allowing yourself some time, analysing what's gone well, what I can take out of the perceived failure is hugely important. And I wish that this was core part of the curriculum, to be honest. I don't know whether you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think first thing to say is that I think kids have to learn and allow themselves to feel bad about something. Sometimes there's this perception that we should go, I'm not allowed to feel that way. I'm not allowed to feel like I've got a weak point to my personality, or I'm feeling pretty rubbish today, and that's okay, right? But it's being able to sit with it and then understand how to move forwards from that. Sometimes we kind of try to ignore those feelings and then just go, no, I can't have that. I need to be brave and stoic and all these sorts of things. So I think it's an education piece around just making sure that kids allow themselves to feel that way. But then in terms of the schools, just from the brief conversations I've had so far, it feels like they are certainly trying to provide a service of sorts, but at the same time they're also really stretched. And there's only so much time that they have access to the kids. I know they're pulled in different directions, and the teachers are pulled in different directions. So it's like, what can you really do, and what can't you do? And so I suppose my perspective, and probably even yours as well, is like, how do you complement what they're already doing really well?
Totally, because how are schools judged results, and maybe the incentives, I'll show you the behaviours. Like, people aren't going to invest heavily in this unless they're incentivized to, and their rankings and all that kind of stuff are determined by the fully rounded, prepared people that they're churning out at upper six to deal with the big bad world. Very interesting. I had a question I wanted to ask you on this, but where did the seed of the idea originally come from? Like, has this been a long time in the making? Obviously,
mixture of things, actually. So I've always enjoyed coaching. I always loved working with the younger guys and mentoring the younger guys coming through as a player. But at the same time, at the time of me retiring, I knew I didn't want to become a professional rugby coach. I just saw the commitment that it takes. It's a 7-day-a-week job. Like, you don't switch off. Like, the days when the boys are resting, the players are resting, you're reviewing training, or you're reviewing a next match, or you're doing something. And there's obviously an art to balancing life as to being a coach. And then, of course, what the sports world's like, it's quite volatile, and before you know it, you could lose your job, and then you think, well, where am I going to go next? And I've got to take my family somewhere. And so there were lots of decisions in that. So, but I always enjoyed the mentoring side. A year after left Saracens, after done some recruitment work for them, I went into the kind of the business world, really trying to use my experience of sport and take it into a coaching sphere. And how do I help people in the business world, but using those lessons that around culture and around performance and under pressure. But then COVID happened, and it all kind of went belly up. And then I found myself in the corporate world, exploring lots of different things. And then, full circle, last year, I met a girl who used to be in the Royal Ballet dancer, Jade Hodgson, and she had always had this thing where she wanted to mentor the next generation of ballet dancers. We'd met sort of through a mutual friend. We'd had conversations, and she had always wanted to set up Ballet Buddy, which she has done. So she set up Ballet Buddy last year, and I said, I know it sounds a bit weird, but I want to do something very similar. There's an interest there. We do different things with our service, but we're still focusing on the next generation. But I was like, would you be open to the idea of me using rugby and using the Rugby Buddy idea? Because it's the same idea around this mentorship that comes with it. And so she was fine. And we don't do work together. There's sort of ongoing conversations about how you marry up the two environments in terms of performance.
Very interesting.
Because she's danced on the biggest of stages, so it's just like the pressure that goes with that, and the pressure that they have in terms of their show reels before the auditions, and all it's same conversations. So like with this element of how do we marry things up, which we're not there yet, but because we're both very early in what we're doing. But yeah, the whole idea was we both had an idea for a long time. It's just then we kind of met fortuitously, really, and I just jumped on the name.
Get going. And do you think, like, let's just like pan out a little bit and be 10 years down the line with Rugby Buddy, will it just be, hand sport? Because obviously these skills, your experience is from playing rugby at the highest level, and that maybe is from ballet and dancing and stuff, but really we're just talking about skills that are going to benefit an individual in any or corporate or academic or whatever you call it. So like, do you think you could expand sort of the offering, as it were, in terms of attracting those that are interested in like cricket? Obviously
completely,
to have a former professional cricketer working with you, but that to me seems like a sport that's played up here.
With
golf.
This is it. It's like every discipline you go into, whether it's sport or whether that's the arts, like we're all experiencing similar things. So of course it's in your mind. Your mind's controlling performance, a lot of it. And so like I'd love to be at a point in 10 years time where like, who knows about names, it doesn't matter about that, but in terms of like just looking after lots of different people in terms of different sports, those conversations have kind of started already. Like really, it's just that rugby is the vehicle to start that conversation because it's what I know. But then working alongside the psychologist that's kind of helped me put my stuff together, like we also recognise that there's a need in lots of different sport. Tennis is another one. So yeah, who knows where it goes? It's just at the moment, it's the rugby's the focus.
Fine. Amazing. And people can find you rugby-buddy.com site, and it's like one-on-one coaching with some peer support.
It's all group coaching actually. People can pay for extra one-to-one support if they want, but it's a group focused, and there's something that was really powerful from the pilot scheme that I ran at the start of the year was this sense of community. Is for them to see that they're not alone in this journey, and then when they start to share and they start to understand somebody else is going through something very similar, they're like, I can relax a little bit. And so that's the idea around the community side and the group coaching, is that they're able to see that they're not just the only person that's going through it. So yeah, a number of different things, services, offerings to it.
Therapy, doesn't it? And then, as you said, they don't try and suppress it. And when you try and like stop feeling a certain way, that I don't think that's a good thing at all.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, kids are impressionable, aren't they? So I think you can't start these guys. I don't think it's too young. I think it's incredible what you're doing. Very best of luck.
Thank you.
It's early days, but I've absolutely no doubt that you'll get there and work out how to get to the next generation coming through. And you know, it'd be really interesting in sort of 5-10 years from now when the guys that you work with as 14-15-year-olds are 25 and see sort of that controlled experiment of those that have had these sports for 10 years versus those at 25 just realising
trying to work it out.
Yeah.
So no, well listen, I'm certainly no psychologist, and I have a psychologist that sits behind it, putting her brain behind my thinking, and a lot of what I did is based around me kind of reading into some psychological support anyway, and so the two things come together, and a lot of it is based on experience and what I know and what I've been through, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Very cool. I think it's probably quite a good place to wrap up. Closing couple of questions for you though. Best piece of advice you've been given during your playing days, your life after playing, whatever? What sort of something? Maybe it's a mantra.
I need to get my phone out because I only heard this recently, and it was a brilliant saying. It was from, funnily enough, Jason Robinson. I listened to him speak, and Jason said, "I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which have never happened." And I was like, "That's brilliant." I absolutely love that. I can't believe it's taken me how long I've known Robbo for 24 years. And yeah, I can't believe it's the first time I've heard that, but that's very good.
Simplicity is often wins out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like the mind is thought, well, you only have the present moment, so if you can be present,
be happy in that moment,
not be worrying or depressed about what's happened or anxious about what's coming next. Yeah, it's so obvious.
Yeah,
I really believe in that. Amazing. I think let's leave it there. Charlie, how can people find you? Rugby-buddy?
Rugby-buddy.com, Instagram, rugby.buddy. Don't think younger generation will be on LinkedIn, but it's fine. I think I'm Charlie Hodgson on LinkedIn anyway, so it's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Anything else you want to say? Or
no, thanks.
We wrap.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course,
it's been good.
Good man. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Cheers.
That was the Luca Health Podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, subscribe for more content like this. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.